Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me, as always, are my co-hosts Tim Kalinowski and Nick Martin. Together, the three of us are going to break down the upcoming four games on Monday and Tuesday. That's May 13th and 14th. A game five, game fours, all over the map here. Let's start, though, with a pivotal game five and another elimination game for the Hurricanes as they travel back to New York as a minus 115 favorite against the New York Rangers. Rangers minus 105. Total here is 5.5. It doesn't make sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me. I know that the Hurricanes just won game four to stave elimination, but I think we've learned enough from the series that the Hurricanes need to tick so many more boxes every game than the Rangers to win. And I texted you guys, the Hurricanes were up 3-1 in game four, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi had a 2-on-1. Jacob Trouba played it. He gave him the shot, and he had so much net to shoot at, and he just fired it into the third row. And I texted you, I was like, well, that's going to be the goal that ends up, that's the chance that the Rangers then score the big goal right thereafter. Brendan Schneider scores. Rangers eventually tie it up a little later. The Hurricanes do end up winning. But the point of that is that like this stuff is going to happen every game. Like it's going to pop up every game. There's going to be a blown chance from the Hurricanes, or the Rangers are just going to take advantage of something and make it really difficult for this Hurricanes team to slog on. I think we've just seen enough evidence of it, even in the series, that the Rangers shouldn't be the underdog here. Uh, doesn't make sense to me. I can't believe these numbers really aren't adjusting much. Nick, am I crazy?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I'm not playing the Canes here as a side. I definitely don't think that now is the time for that. What I'm kind of expecting is this is the one I've kind of been sitting all series on, the game's getting tighter and tighter. And I feel like now you get into this elimination game, this will be the one where maybe it becomes really locked down. So I'm kind of leaning towards the under. Like it's still holding up at a reasonable price when we thought we might have seen like fives by game five in this series. So I kind of like the under. And if Shesterkin saves goes back down to 30.5, I'll play it on this one after passing last game because it was a touch high. And now I feel like that'll be the game script because that was, like you said, I think the way that game went is going to be more the anomaly in this series. I think what's going to be more common is like, and in this game in particular, I feel like it's going to be like 1-1. Carolina's pushing a lot, but the Rangers have cleaned it up. Shesterkin has a bit of a better night. So I think that's kind of going to put all that back in play. I think obviously you're going to see both teams bring it. We'll see Carolina get their pressure, but the Rangers should clean it up. I think Shesterkin has a better game. So I don't want to lay it with Carolina. I feel like something low scoring and that's the thing is like I feel like when the Rangers play good, and this is like obviously this got away from that the last game, but it's almost like they're in that rhythm of giving up some shots and giving up some of the stuff that they're comfortable with and then getting stuff going the other way. So I feel like it really just did kind of get off script. So I like the under here and I like the Shesterkin saves.
Yeah, I definitely am in the Shesterkin saves camp. Well, also, too, you're bang on Leboff. I just don't know how Carolina can be favored again here. Like it's this is almost where you see like how lines are made, and it's like, is it too much just too much like data, too much advanced metrics in terms of like shot volume and stuff
You
like
could just
that?
flip it. Like if these numbers just flipped, I just feel like people would be like, yeah, that looks exactly
Yeah.
right. Like like
It's totally true. So I'm not comfortable playing Carolina as a side at all. If I had to play a side, I would play the Rangers. And Nick, I'm actually the other way in terms of going on the over here. One, I feel like this is kind of continuing in these elimination games with the opportunity to for the early empty net stuff. And I just feel like the over has been 3-1 in this series, and I feel like, and if at the start, if someone scores in the first period, it just opens the door for both of these teams, because if Carolina's trailing, I love the game script for the over for them pressing, right? We obviously know what they're capable of doing in the offensive zone. And then the other way, I just trust New York being a big power play away from getting their cookies as well. So maybe that's too marginal for a handicap on the over, but I'm kind of I mean, I've been playing the over, so I feel good about it, but it's almost like I'm sick of thinking that they're going to be low scoring, and then it just continues to open up for these two teams. And I feel like that's part of the reason why. And also, too, throw in Carolina's goaltending, you can't feel good about it before any of these games.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's time to pound the unders. Maybe I'm reaching.
I feel like we're almost there.
I think
you might
this
be
could
right.
be the one that just ends up being really locked down, and it feels like it's really, really hard to get that chance that becomes an actual goal. The other thing too, even Carolina's lines to win the series are nuts.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think they even.
Why would you ever? They seem very low. I don't know.
The Stanley Cup futures. I feel like this whole series has just been driving me up a wall.
Yeah,
And and the point you made about the goaltending, Tim, applies to the argument we're making about the Rangers. Is like there's very, very little chance that Igor Shesterkin just has a blow up game, and there is not a small chance that there's somewhere in between you got to at least give it some thought chance that Kochetkov or Anderson, whoever goes for game 5, does completely wilts. It's 3. It's almost like that game 7 that these two teams played in 2022, where it just was 5-1 and the game was over halfway through it. That's what I'm saying. Like there's so many trap doors for the Hurricanes to fall through, and there's not that many for the Rangers. So I don't know if this line shoots towards Carolina again. I don't know. We always have stuff to learn, right? I need to learn why.
And I feel like it's kind of lame on the show, but it is kind of a tough one. When I think I could see myself liking Carolina if they actually got to game 7. That'll be the next time I consider touching them, because I think at that point that's a long ways away here, but that's just, and it goes to the point of the series line too. Like I almost feel like if you wanted to, like, it looks like even the series price is a little short on the Rangers, but not that I want to tout minus 600s around here on futures, but like it seems pretty low.
That's
well, I mean, hey, finally Carolina scores a power play goal. I
did have that thought. I was almost interested in tapping into that following up, but then even those prices looked pretty standard. But I agree. It wouldn't be stunning to see it work and keep Shea up there.
I feel like, beyond that, so much of, I feel like this was the lowest total penalties in a game of this series so far. And I feel like it's no shock that Carolina wins that game, because I feel like the more special teams, regardless of the team that gets it, it's good for the Rangers, because we've seen what they've been able to do to generating on the PK as well. It's if they are calls either way, feels like it helps the Rangers.
Yeah, the MSG crowd should be cheering for every penalty.
Yeah,
no matter what. All right. So Rangers for me, Tim on the over, Nick looking at the under, and Igor saves over. Let's move on to Dallas and Colorado. The Stars took a 2-1 lead in game 3. This one will be game 4. Dallas is plus 112. Colorado minus 134. Total here is sitting at 6.5. You both are looking at the Avs. I'm actually going to sit this one out, so I'll just pass it over to you, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a small play on the Avs. I thought that I felt pretty confident that this was going to be a split between these two games heading back to Dallas. And I think given the way the last game went, you could see how the Avs are going to have their chances. So I'm kind of with you, Tim. I'm still kind of interested in the over again, even after losing it last game. I feel like you're going to see the Avs Stars bounce back here. But I continue to think that Dallas's offensive depth can give some problems. So I see enough value for a small play on the Avs at minus 135, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I think for this one, that's really all I've got. I felt like you could see that they were close, and the one thing that is kind of becoming interesting, Edmonton really is had a pretty reasonable playoff at this point, so I guess that'd be a big stabilizer. But yeah, I felt like this is gonna be a split, and I still feel confident on that after watching that game 3. So I'll take a shot on the Avs. Not in love with the number at minus 135, but at some point I feel like you kind of just got to, pick a team that you think is going to win. And right now I think that's the Avs.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm leaning the Avalanche. It's just the price is a little too much. We were able to get Colorado at open in game 3 at like -120. So it's like, oh, they lose game 3 and I'm still paying a bit of a tax here. So it's like, but it feels like this series is going to be tied. And you know what I do? Like, this is playoffs. I bet every game. That's just what I like to do, right? Like, and I always say I bet enough so that I could bet tomorrow. And so that leads me to wanting to bet the Avalanche here. I'm well aware I'm paying a tax for like even the series up here, but I don't see them losing 2 games on home ice in this series, at least in 3 and 4. And then on top of that, because I like the Avalanche, that means you probably lean with the over as well. So I have no problem if you want to go that route, that direction too.
Yeah, and I think you're paying a bit of a tax because they lost, and now you're suddenly getting a worse number. But I do think part of that was the way that game went too. So, I think it's worth a look on the Avs here.
Okay, that brings us to Tuesday night. The Bruins face elimination in Sunrise. Just a wild couple games since we last spoke between these two teams. Boston sitting plus 170-ish for game 5. Panthers -205. Total here is at 5.5. The Bruins were without Brad Marchand for game 4 and chunks of game 3. The Panthers lost Sam Reinhart through game 4, but it looks like he'll be fine for game 5, according to the coach. I don't believe any coaches ever anymore. I'm just done with it. So we'll see. They said that he took a puck to the face and had to get stitched up. But we'll see. Anyways, just keep an eye on that. Paying a pretty chunky price on Florida here. I don't really know if I trust the Bruins to get through this full game without Marchand. If he plays, obviously you're getting a decent number. It should come down a bit. He's a pretty big impact player. One angle I do like here is like Boston's going to have to go back to what they were doing against the Leafs here without Marchand. Like, you just don't have that scoring upside anymore. They showed some of it against the Panthers in game 4. They kind of just gritted their way to a 2-0 lead, tried their best to contain Florida, and the Panthers are just able to break loose because they're so good at just causing havoc. So I think I'm going to go to the 0-0 here to start, the 0-0 first period bet to start, because I just expect Boston to come out and do everything they can to keep this thing in control for as long as they can, and hope that they can nick one over the line and go from there, Nick. So that's my thinking here, is Boston to try to sell out to keep it close. So the 0-0 first period, I think, has some value in that case.
I can see that. I definitely think it's tightening up. Not going to be like the last couple, but I actually like the Panthers here. They're still at -200. I'd play that. I like the puck line. I think -2.5 too. And the other thing I'll be watching, if it's close late, even if it's say tied entering the third, I think that would actually be a respectable time to then go with like the live -2.5 and just see if they can break through and then get a couple empty nets, because you'll get such a long number. So that's one look. I really think Boston's just completely being outclassed. I think one thing in all the series has been, and like as annoying as it is to listen all the crying both ways about the refs, maybe the Bruins have got a slightly bad whistle in this series. I don't know. I think that no matter what, they'd be down 3-1 like they are. They're getting completely dominated. I think tonight, even if you look at the first period, they were pretty damn lucky to get up 2-0. It wasn't like, even if the analytics of the game obviously heavily favored Florida, given that they demolished them for 2 periods. But even the first period, they were pretty unlucky to go down 2-0. It's not like it really was at any point looking much different. And I think at this point, they're just really outclassed. And the Panthers look scary good right now. Like, I think they're just, everything that they have going on looks amazing. The third line has really picked up some steam here. Rodriguez has looked great. Lundell's finding it after a surprisingly bad regular season. So I just feel like this looks like a team that's a deserving cup favorite, and the Bruins are out of gas. So I think it's a lot like the Tampa series. I didn't play the Panthers to win in game 5 versus the Lightning because I thought the number was a little too long, or just not a good enough price, a little too short. And now I'm looking at this one and I'm like, you know what? I honestly think the gap between these teams is wider than this right now. It feels like I guess in the playoffs it's hard to get to that, but I like the Panthers to just roll them here.
Yeah, it was surprising seeing this Panthers lines start with a 2, but the more you think about it, it has been all Florida. And teams, it's funny, teams that complain about a bad whistle, even if they're right, it's usually a sign that the team knows that they need a good whistle in order to have a chance to win. And that certainly feels like the case with the Bruins. I'm in a lot of, Bruins group chats, and my buddies are freaking out. I'm thinking to myself, like, well, part of the problem is your second best scorer is like Dan Heinen. That's kind of your issue too. No offense to Dan Heinen, but he just shouldn't be the second best option. I leaned with over in this game. Nick kind of talked me out of it. Both you guys did, partly because the more I think about it, I'm so worried about what Boston can generate, and we continue to see these horrible starts to games, even though they're leading in terms of just like actually generating shots and volume and grade A's. Guys, I wish I had said we should be playing Bobrovsky saves unders and like Leaf saves unders the last 2 weeks, because we'd all be rich. Like the Bruins,
they've been so low though. Like it's been 23.5. Like some of the Leafs ones 22.5. So
the Bruins are getting like
been
16 shots.
I was gonna say I think they're still cashing, but it's like I had it in my head. It's crazy to think that they are deservingly lower than that, or should be lower than that, when it's already like the lowest line you'll see in like any game.
It's insane. And I've thought about playing it for this upcoming game, but I don't want to in an elimination game, just because you can get that full desperation factor. So I would be off of it in that case. But yeah, I think there's a chance maybe Allmark here. So I'm going to wait to fire on that over, if I indeed like it by then, to possibly see for that news. But yeah, I'm just so worried about what Boston can generate. This is totally Florida all the way. It feels like maybe I'll go with that puck line. I'll feel a little bit better about it. But yeah, I'm not giving Boston much of a chance. This is why I laid it with Florida to start the series price. This is kind of who they are, unfortunately.
Which brings us to our last game for this episode, Vancouver and Edmonton. This one game 3 just wrapped right as we were recording, and that was Vancouver holding on for a 4-3 win. So they are up 2-1 in the series. That game was an impressive performance from Arturs Silovs, who made 40 saves, right around 40 saves, to get Vancouver over the line. They're now plus 160 for game 4, so the numbers come down a bit from where it closed. Ahead of game 3. I think a lot of that has to do with goaltending, but not just Silovs, but the other way. The Oilers are minus 194. The total is 6.5. Yeah, the goaltending is. I know everyone's not going to shut up about the officials, but I don't think we need to get too much into that. I mean, leave that for the other pods and talk about the goaltending, because it hasn't been a good series for Stuart Skinner at all. He gets pulled after the second. I think a lot of that was just to maybe spark the team as much as anything, but he just generally hasn't been very good in the series. Silovs has been as good as you can imagine for him. He just played a great game for game 3. The question now becomes, do we think that those things continue? Do they meet in the middle? Does Skinner get his act together and kind of become the ace side of this goaltending matchup? Can the Oilers solve Silovs and turn him into, a number 3 goalie? I don't trust it enough to want to back Edmonton at all for game 4. I understand. I agree that this line should have come down a bit. I think it's not been pretty for Vancouver, maybe, but they're winning these games the way they have to, and you got to give them credit for that, Nick.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of in the same place. Like, I think at this point it'd be pretty ridiculous to actually think there's value laying minus 205 now to back the Oilers here. Seems a little wrong. I think you're going to want to continue. I played the first period money line in tonight's game because I like and maybe they'll sharpen it up, but I like the idea that you're just going to get the minutes betting that, and it was still a really long number, where you're just going to get the period where they're not just going to have McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard, and Ekholm out the entire period. And so I do kind of like that, or just kind of like you can start with that and then you could bet it again in the second period, and then you can maybe consider the Oiler live. And I also think that's why you just can't lay minus 205 with the Oilers right now, because it's just as amazing as their top dogs are playing, it's become the exact same story as some of these other playoffs. And yeah, overall they did outplay the Canucks. They did have a lot more chances, but like you said, Skinner's also been shaky. Seelovs has been surprisingly strong. So I just don't think you can lay this. I think if you wanted, you just keep playing like these live bets. You could try to get on the Oilers late. You could go on the Canucks to start. But I think the whole point of it is just the Oilers aren't getting anything good from anyone but that top unit. Like they're just, and the Canucks have been opportunistic, and I do wonder if maybe we start to see a few more Oilers power plays come on if they get into a bad spot here. But I just think you can't lay this. The Canucks are getting like their third line looks really good. Lindholm's coming alive. Power play looked sharp tonight. Besser's playing really good. Like I just feel like they have a lot more going for them. And the Oilers, they're getting ridiculous results from that top group, but I don't know. Does that mean you want to back them at minus 205? I feel like it doesn't. And that's probably why you like even if this is tied after 2 periods, you're going to get a way better price. And then you're going to get a whole period of just those guys playing 10 minutes of it and demolishing them. So I feel like I'd rather target it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I played Vancouver in this game. I was shocked at the number, honestly. Like I just think that it can draw a lot of comparisons to Carolina in the sense that like just the goaltending is too much for me to an Edmonton side is too much for me to doubt laying that number. And Vancouver again, like people forget, like we've been waiting to call Vancouver, or people have been waiting to call Vancouver frauds now for like 9 months. Like this team's really good, and the way that they've been able to play in a way that exposes the Oilers' deficiencies and has made it difficult on them. Look, Lebo, if you were trying to handicap the goalies, I say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep betting the overs. It's open 6.5 minus 104. I hit it just as we were talking here. It just feels like that the script is over, especially these two net miners, firepower that the Oilers have. I'll tell you that the strategy, I'm going to bet Vancouver again. And the way I'm going to do it is a lot of these books offer those, if a team goes up 2 goals, you automatically win your bet type of things. And Vancouver going up like with that caveat of going up 2 goals, easy early cash, whatever the hell they're called. That to me, because Nick, you avoid the Edmonton onslaught of half the Western Conference All-Star team on the ice at the end of the game. So that's the way I'm going to go. And even so, I just think that this number's too wide. Still not enough respect to Vancouver, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I did end up making less than you tonight by playing just the first period money line. I got a worse price, but I was relaxed. Well, you were probably hating the end of that game.
Oh yeah, I was sweating. Yeah, I was sweating. That was tough.
Yeah. So I agree. I think these will continue to just be pretty fun games to bet on. Pretty high event. All the Oilers guys are just playing so many minutes. Some of their prop prices might get a little insane. I passed on Bouchard's shots tonight because I thought I'd get a little wide. I feel like he finished with like 5, and I was sitting here worried about it moving 15 cents.
He's at least going to have 30 attempts every game.
Yeah, and he scored in the final minute, so I'm not complaining. But yeah.
All right. So that does it. Before we get out of here, we can go around the horn quickly for our favorite bet. I'll go first. I'm going to back that Bruins Panthers first period to end scoreless prop that was very kind to us in the deep end of the round 1 series. So that's going to be my favorite bet. Tim, what do you got?
I will go Oilers Canucks over 6.5.
Nice. I'm going to go with the Panthers puck line as my favorite.
Cool. There you have it. Another episode of Line Change is in the books. We will be back again on Tuesday night after that Canucks Oilers game to talk about whatever's left of the round 2. By the time we talk, we could only have 2 teams left in the Eastern Conference. So there you go. For Tim and Nick, I'm Michael. Thank you for listening and rating, reviewing, subscribing. Thank you to our producer, David, for doing the hard work tonight. We'll see you again in a couple of days.